There was a ton of red in the markets yesterday. Will we see more? Let's talk about it. I am Dr. Stock, Doctor of Education. And if Mike Tyson worked for packing stuff up at Amazon, do you think he'd still wear boxing gloves? All right, we're going to take a look at the economic calendar. We're also going to take a look at SPY, QQQ, IWM, NVDA, and AMD, Tesla, and Google in this video. Let's get right into it. So here's the economic calendar on trading economics, and we have ADP employment change coming up today. We'll see how that goes. We have a slew of Fed speeches coming up. We also have ISM services data coming out. Jerome Powell is the big one today, 12:10 p.m., talking about economic conditions, and what we're looking for is insight into what he is thinking about for those rate cuts. And so we could see the market continue to push down near that time, possibly spring back up afterwards. We're going to have to look and see. It is possible we get even more downward pressure from that. So that is going to be absolutely critical to watch that. That's why we have it listed in red over here on trading economics. So going back down through Thursday, April 4th, more Fed speeches coming up. Initial jobless claims is also part of that. And then from there, Friday, another big day with non-farm payrolls. And the unemployment rate, which has creeped up to 3.9%. If we watch that continue to push upward into the fours, that could be also downward pressure in the markets. We need to be watching for that one. So let me put this up here so you can see my pretty face. And we're going to transition over to the charts. And what we're going to see first is SPY. And what I have pointed out here is the 20-day moving average support. And I'm going to stretch this out so we get a really good view of what's going on right now. So yesterday we came down and we smooched this 20-day support that I had been talking about that has been sort of going along with the rising wedge pattern as well. So you could see that happened quite a few times. That anytime that we got near it or came down and touched it, that we had a significant rally off of that. Well, yesterday we can see that it was still acting as support. Today in the pre-market hours we're still above that. We are starting to get the 5 and the 13 EMAs coming down towards that 20. And as we continue to watch them flatten out and curl over, it is possible that we start to get that downward pressure still coming in, and maybe we see that market correction come to follow as we fall out of that rising wedge pattern that we've been talking about. I said talking about breaking that lower trend line is something that can be a bearish signal for us. Going over to QQQ, we have been outside for a while. We retested resistance, and then we ended up finding support at this line that I've had drawn on here for you at about 440. Seems to be relatively firm support in the pre-market hours. So we're trading just below that. And we have the 50 EMA and SMA down here, riding right around that 433 mark. And that could also be a good bounce for us. If we break down through that, that could be a significant fall for us. So we'll be watching for that one. I will say that QQQ, with big tech having traded not as rampantly upward as it has been, we haven't seen the same price action for the Qs for the NASDAQ 100 as what we've seen for the S&P 500. Going over to IWM, also a small rising wedge pattern here. We came off the top trend line, selling back down. We're still inside this right now. And so we'll see. We have let me go way in on this one so we can see it. We have the 50 EMA and SMA right here along with this trend line. That's a lot of confluence. There could be relatively decent support coming off of that where we end up bouncing off of that and heading back upward for a while. We're going to have to watch and see. I do think that the small caps, when we do bottom out wherever it's going to be, I think it's going to be a wild outperformance of what we could have with the QQQ and with the S&P 500. So we'll have to keep an eye on that one. NVIDIA, what in the world is going on with NVIDIA? Well, we've actually dropped down. Instead of riding along at the 5 and the 13s as support, instead we're starting to dangle off of them. This is when I said we could sell down to 850, maybe even down to 800. Look at the 50 EMA and SMA. The EMA is in red, SMA is in blue, by the way. And as we look at this, that's right around 800, which would be, as they continue upward towards the prices that we have up here for the candles, we could possibly see that come into play. And 800 could be where we bottom out for NVIDIA before we start that next run upward. We're going to have to watch for this one. So we do need a little bit of time to rest. We do have a little bit of bearish divergence happening here. We still are up above the 50 for the RSI. And so that's important to point out because as we stay up above the 50 lines right here, by the way, you can see that this is dropping down as the prices were kind of drifting upward a little bit-ish on a general trend of things. Bouncing off that 50, though, is going to keep us in bullish territory. I think NVIDIA is going to be fairly well insulated against the market sells. Now, mind you, I think its multiples will be affected as trading multiples. However, I do think that this is one that as the market multiples shift, NVIDIA's multiples will also be influenced as well, but it still is a leader in its space for a massive trend that isn't going away anytime soon. So going over to AMD, which is being outperformed about 10 to 1 for what we have for AMD as far as selling their parts go. We are just below the 50 SMA. We get a lot of buying pressure, as you can see from these wicks coming in right around 173 to 175, putting us back up into that range. And we are down in actually bearish territory as per the momentum gauge with what we have for the RSI for AMD. So it is possible that we do break back up above that 50, but you can see with the high wicks that we have, there's a lot of indecision happening right now for AMD at this price. It's a battle being fought between the bulls and the bears, and we're just going to have to watch and see which one wins. A strong push 2 candle close down below the 50s, which another day today could be that thing that finally allows this to sell. Or if we break back up above the 50 SMA, that could be the thing that allows that next price rally to come in for AMD. So those are the exact things we want to be watching. Dancing around those 50 days, keep an eye on those. Keep an eye on the RSI, because as that breaks up above 50, that could be also a bullish thing for us. And if we bounce and stay below 50 on it, that could be a bearish thing for us. Tesla deliveries, which I expected to come in weak, did come in weak. We had quite a sell yesterday, dropping down a significant number of percent, 5 or 6%, from the previous close till yesterday's close. And well, where does that put us now? We could possibly continue drifting down lower to this area of confluence that between two different trend lines for this falling wedge pattern that we have for Tesla, and the demand issue that is coming into question, also the production issue that we have for Tesla. Are we going to see that continued demand? Now, mind you, I believe over the long term that we will. I do also believe that Elon, when he said that we're between S curves, that's something to pay attention to, as he knows his business, and that he was signaling to us that there could be some rough days ahead. And I do think that that's going to lead to some wild upside eventually as we continue to sell off of this. So I think for Tesla stock, I think we could still possibly see some downward pressure. The RSI is still currently in the bearish territory, and what you can also see is we're down below the 200-day, we're down below the 50-day, we're in full-on bearish territory for Tesla stock at the moment. But these dark days, I think we'll have that silver lining day where things start to turn around for Tesla. Again, we start to see that massive upside come into play, and the 50 and the 200 are going to be huge indicators. The RSI is also going to be a huge indicator, and finding out when that happens. I will continue to dollar cost average my position on the way down with Tesla. So Google, got to be watching for this potential double top. We do have a slightly higher top over here than we had over there, and we'll see if the price does continue higher. That can most definitely happen. And then we have resistance right around 162. If we do happen to sell off that double top, we have the 50-day EMA and SMA down here right around that 145 mark. And we have a little bit, probably 150 is going to be that round number support that we're looking for. And then down to 145 is that next support that we're looking for. We are currently in bullish territory, but slightly overbought. So maybe we could possibly see some price cooling a little bit for Google in the coming days. So these are the stocks that I'm watching right now. If you guys want to come and talk with me and my community members over at the Patreon, see what I'm buying and selling, how I'm playing this market, that link is down in the description. Also down in the description is a link for a technical analysis trading course. If you learn to do technical analysis like I do, you can go down and click that link, sign up, and you can also learn about how to trade stocks using the power of technical analysis. Guys, keep an eye on that calendar. Keep an ear out for what Jerome Powell has to say. I'll be coming back here to YouTube to tell you about the stocks that I'm watching and what I see going on in the overall markets. Thank you, guys. I really do appreciate it. I am Dr. Stock, Doctor of Education. Remember, my friends, that learning is earning, and we'll see you in the next video.